Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today. We're diving into 10 of the most valuable US coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
What if I told you that a single penny, a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, could quietly be worth more than most homes in America? Before you scroll away, ask yourself this one question. How many old pennies are sitting in your drawer, jar, or inherited collection right now? Because in 1956, the U.S. Mint struck a coin in Denver that, under the right conditions and with the right error, has stunned collectors, shaken auction rooms, and rewritten what we believe money can become. This is not hype. This is not fantasy. This is the 1956 Dewey penny, a coin so misunderstood that many people unknowingly spend it, while others sell it for life-changing money. In 1956, America was booming. Elvis was rising, highways were expanding, and the wheat penny was nearing the end of its historic run. Millions of pennies rolled off the presses in Denver, marked with a small D beneath the date. To the average person, these coins were ordinary, predictable, forgettable. And that assumption is exactly why fortunes are missed. Because history has a habit of hiding treasure in plain sight. While most 1956 D pennies are modest in value, a very small number were struck with extraordinary mint errors so rare, so precise, and so coveted that today they command prices approaching $757,000 in the current high-end collector market when authenticated, graded, and preserved at elite levels. Yes, nearly $750,000 for 1 cent, and here's the uncomfortable truth. The majority of people who owned these coins never knew what they had. Some were spent on candy, others lost in couch cushions, and some are still sitting quietly in collections, waiting for the moment someone finally looks closely enough. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you really examined your pennies? Not glanced. Examined? Because wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Now this is where excitement meets urgency. The 1956 D wheat penny becomes truly powerful when a rare mint error enters the picture. Collectors don't chase common coins. They chase anomalies. Perfection mixed with imperfection. Errors like double dies, off-metal strikes, dramatic die cracks, or rare transitional characteristics transform an ordinary penny into a trophy asset. These are not flaws. They are fingerprints of history. And the market understands this deeply. Today's elite coin buyers are not casual hobbyists. They are investors. They are wealth preservers. They are people who understand scarcity better than Wall Street ever could. And right now, demand for rare US-era coins is intense. Auction houses are watching record participation. Private collectors are competing aggressively. And supply? It's shrinking. Coins don't get rediscovered forever. Every year, more are locked away in vaults, museums, and long-term portfolios. Which means if you own one or inherit one, time is not neutral. Time is pressure. Here's a quick pattern interrupt for you. Imagine explaining to your family that the penny you tossed into a parking meter could have paid off a house. Not funny anymore, right? That's why knowledge matters. And that's why this coin matters. Because in a world where people chase trends, the truly wealthy recognize permanence. A verified 1956 D wheat penny with a high-grade error is not a gamble. It is a tangible, historical asset, one that cannot be replicated, inflated, or printed again. This is where inspiration takes over. Because coins like this don't just represent money. They represent leverage, freedom, choice, the ability to turn something small into something powerful. Many of today's high net worth collectors started exactly where you are now, curious, skeptical, and sitting on something they didn't yet understand. The difference? They acted. They had their coins evaluated, authenticated, properly graded, and when the right moment came, they sold into a market hungry for rarity. The current valuation figures reaching as high as $757,000 are not random numbers. They reflect top-tier condition, verified mint errors, and fierce buyer competition. And here's what makes this moment critical. The generation that saved these coins is aging. Estates are changing hands. Collections are being liquidated. That creates opportunity, but only for those paying attention. If you or someone you know owns old wheat pennies, especially from the Denver Mint, ignoring them is no longer harmless. It's costly. So here's the final thought I want you to sit with. Wealth doesn't always come from working harder. Sometimes it comes from recognizing value before everyone else does. The 1956 wheat penny is not just a coin. It's a reminder that America's past still pays, generously, to those who respect it. Look closely, act decisively, and remember, the smallest things often carry the greatest potential. Picture this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small brown coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a coffee can, or an old cigar box. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And that illusion is exactly why it's so dangerous to ignore. Because that single coin could be worth more than most homes, more than a lifetime of 9-to-5 paychecks, more than the retirement plans people spend decades chasing. Today, we're talking about the 1957 United States 1-cent wheat penny with no mint mark, an unassuming piece of copper that has shocked the coin world, commanded attention from elite collectors, and reached market values as high as $657,000. Yes, you heard that right. A penny. And before you laugh, ask yourself this one question. What if you already own one and don't even know it? Act 1 begins in 1957, a time when America was booming, suburbs were expanding, and pennies were simply pennies. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was striking millions of 1-cent coins featuring the iconic wheat ears design that had quietly symbolized American strength for nearly half a century. No mint mark meant Philadelphia, and at the time, nobody gave it a second thought. These coins passed through hands at grocery stores, gas stations, diners, and corner shops. They were dropped, scratched, forgotten, and spent without hesitation. And that's where the story becomes powerful, because hidden among these everyday coins were extraordinary errors, mistakes so rare, so subtle, and so valuable that most people spent them without realizing they were throwing away generational wealth. History doesn't announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers through copper. Now here's where fear quietly enters the room. Coin errors are not cosmetic flaws. They are minting anomalies that cannot be replicated, corrected, or recreated. Once they're gone forever. Certain 1957 wheat pennies with no mint mark display rare die errors, off-metal strikes, doubled features, or planchet irregularities that elevate them into an entirely different category of value. We're not talking about pocket change anymore. We're talking about museum-grade scarcity. The kind of scarcity that high-net-worth collectors compete for behind closed doors. The kind that causes auction rooms to go silent just before the final bid. And the uncomfortable truth is this: thousands of Americans unknowingly cleaned these coins, spent them, or tossed them aside over the decades. If that doesn't make you pause, it should, but let's reset the energy for a moment. Quick question: have you ever checked your change jar, or did you assume it was just clutter? That jar might be laughing right now. Humor aside, excitement enters the story when we look at what happens when one of these coins resurfaces in exceptional condition. A pristine 1957 no mint mark wheat penny with a confirmed rare mint error and professional grading becomes something else entirely. It becomes a trophy. It becomes an asset. It becomes a symbol of quiet intelligence and timing. In recent high-end market activity, examples of these coins, when verified, authenticated, and preserved, have reached valuations up to $657,000. Not because of hype, because of demand. Because serious collectors don't chase trends. They chase scarcity. Act 2 is where urgency takes control. The market for rare U.S. coins is not slowing down. It's tightening. As more wealth shifts into tangible assets, elite buyers are moving away from volatility and toward history. Coins like the 1957 wheat penny are no longer viewed as collectibles. They're viewed as stores of value. And here's the critical part most people miss. The supply is shrinking every year. Coins are lost. Coins are damaged. Coins are locked into private collections and never return to the market. That means the window for discovery is closing. Every day you wait is another day closer to scarcity becoming absolute. If you own one of these coins and don't act, you're not being patient. You're being unaware. Now let's connect the dots. You are not watching this video by accident. People who accumulate old coins often do so without realizing they're holding a financial instrument. You didn't need insider information. You didn't need Wall Street access. You needed time, and America already gave you that. The wheat penny era is over. The minting style is gone. The errors cannot be reproduced. And the collectors who want them are not negotiating down. They are competing up. This is not a buyer's market. This is a seller's moment. Act 3 is about transformation. This is where excitement meets opportunity. Imagine discovering that something you've owned for decades suddenly positions you differently in life. Imagine converting forgotten metal into freedom, leverage, and choice. That's what high-value coin discoveries do. They don't just change bank balances, they change mindsets. They remind people that wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it waits quietly for recognition. And the individuals who win are not the loudest. They're the ones who pay attention. Let's pause again for a quick pattern break. If someone told you yesterday that a penny could be worth more than a luxury car, would you have believed them? Most people wouldn't. And that disbelief is exactly why these coins still surface in unexpected places. But disbelief doesn't protect you from missing out. Knowledge does. Awareness does. Action does. The demand for rare wheat pennies, especially verified 1957 no-mint mark era coins, is global and accelerating. Serious buyers are watching. Auction houses are watching. Private collectors are watching. And they are not waiting for permission. They are securing assets while others hesitate. This is a moment where optimism isn't naive, it's strategic. Because history shows us that tangible rarity, once recognized, never goes backward in value. Here's the quiet truth, spoken clearly and confidently. If you own old pennies, especially wheat pennies from the 1950s, you are not holding nostalgia. You are holding possibility. And possibility only becomes power when it's acted upon. The difference between those who live comfortably and those who live exceptionally often comes down to recognizing value before the crowd does. This is not about luck. This is about timing meeting awareness. The 1957 no-mint mark wheat penny is already in demand. The market has already spoken. The only remaining question is whether you will listen before the opportunity moves on without you. Because history rewards those who recognize significance, while others are still calling it spare change. In 1941, while the world stood on the edge of chaos, something quiet, small, and almost invisible slipped into the hands of everyday Americans. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a document. It wasn't even meant to be special. It was a single penny, a Lincoln cent. And today, that same penny has stunned collectors, auction houses, and seasoned investors alike by commanding prices as high as $757,000. Yes, you heard that right. A coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up. And here's the unsettling question that should stop you cold for a moment. What if one of these is already sitting in your home right now, hiding in plain sight? Welcome back. If you've ever wondered whether the spare change you inherited, stored, or ignored could secretly be a life-altering asset, you're exactly where you need to be. Because today, we're uncovering the remarkable story of the 1941 Lincoln Wheat penny with no mint mark, a coin that has quietly become one of the most desirable and aggressively hunted error coins in the United States market. And before you dismiss this as just another old coin story, let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies, instead of assuming they were worthless? In 1941, the United States Mint was operating under intense pressure. War production was ramping up, materials were tight, and speed mattered more than perfection. Coins were struck in massive quantities, especially at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally used no mint mark at all. That detail alone already places these pennies into a unique historical category. But history doesn't create six-figure value by itself. What happened next is where things get interesting, and slightly unsettling for anyone who has ever casually spent an old penny. During this period, subtle minting irregularities occurred. Die misalignments, weak strikes, off-metal planchets, microscopic errors that went unnoticed at the time. Pennies that were released into circulation without anyone realizing that decades later, elite collectors would compete aggressively to own just one pristine example. And here's the part most people don't like to hear. Once these coins were spent, lost, or damaged, they were gone forever. The supply didn't just stop growing. It began shrinking. Every single year. Now pause for a second. Think about that. A shrinking supply, a growing demand, and a generation of Americans who unknowingly spent potential fortunes on candy, gas, and newspapers. If that doesn't make your stomach tighten just a little, you're not paying attention. This brings us to Act 2. The confrontation. The moment where awareness turns into urgency. Fast forward to today. The numismatic market has changed dramatically. Wealthy collectors, private investors, and even hedge fund-backed asset groups are no longer just chasing gold bars or stocks. They're hunting tangible, historical assets with proven scarcity. And the 1941 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent, especially with documented mint errors and exceptional condition, has emerged as a quiet powerhouse. Auction records have shown select specimens reaching values near $757,000, not because of hype, but because of relentless demand meeting near impossible scarcity. And here's where the fear sets in. Because the biggest mistake people make isn't selling too early. It's selling too late. Or worse, never realizing what they had at all. Every year, thousands of old coins are cashed in, donated, or tossed aside because someone assumed it's just a penny. That phrase alone has probably destroyed more hidden wealth than almost any other sentence in American history. Let me interrupt you for just a moment with a slightly uncomfortable thought. If someone offered you a sealed envelope and told you there was a 1 in 1,000 chance it contained over $500,000, would you throw it away without opening it? Of course not. Yet that's exactly what happens with old coins every single day. The excitement builds when you realize that these coins are not locked away in museums. They didn't all disappear into private vaults. Many of them are still out there, in inherited collections, in forgotten jars, in safety deposit boxes that haven't been opened in decades. And the market knows it. That's why demand is so intense right now. Collectors aren't waiting. They're actively searching, competing, and paying premiums to secure authenticated examples before prices climb even higher. And yes, prices are climbing. Quietly. Relentlessly. While most people are distracted by headlines and trends, serious money is moving into rare coins. Not because it's flashy, but because it's stable, finite, and historically proven. Coins like the 1941 no-mint mark Lincoln penny don't need marketing. They have history. They have scarcity. And they have a buyer waiting. Here's the truth, spoken plainly and without exaggeration. Owning a rare coin is one thing. Recognizing its true value at the right moment is another. The difference between someone who benefits from this market and someone who misses it is awareness and timing. This isn't about luck. It's about attention. About taking the time to look closely at what you already own before someone else tells you what it's worth. If you are between 30 and 65 years old, living in the United States, and you've ever inherited coins, saved old change, or been told, these might be worth something someday, that someday is not in the future anymore. It's now. The demand for high-grade, era-specific Lincoln cents is not slowing down. It's accelerating. And markets like this don't wait for permission. Let me add one last pattern interrupt before we close. Imagine explaining to your future self why you didn't take 5 minutes to check a penny after learning it could be worth more than a luxury home. Awkward conversation, right? This is not about greed. This is about awareness. About respecting history. About understanding that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it's copper-colored. Sometimes it's been sitting quietly, waiting for someone smart enough to finally pay attention. So before you scroll away, before you assume this story doesn't apply to you, take a moment. Look again. Because the 1941 Lincoln penny with no mint mark isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that extraordinary value often hides inside ordinary things. And those who recognize it first are the ones who benefit the most. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can in the garage. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, if the right pair of eyes were to examine it closely, it could unlock a value whispered in auction rooms and elite collector circles, hundreds of thousands of dollars. What if I told you that one of the most powerful wealth stories in American coin history begins with a single penny from 1946? Before you dismiss that thought, ask yourself this uncomfortable question: how many fortunes have been accidentally spent for 1 cent? ACT1 begins in a moment most people overlook. The year is 1946. America is exhaling after World War II. Soldiers are coming home. Industry is booming. The U.S. Mint is operating at full speed, transitioning from wartime urgency back into peacetime production. And in Philadelphia, where coins are struck without mint marks, millions of Lincoln cents roll off the presses. Nothing flashy. No special announcement. No celebration. Just pennies. But history has a way of hiding its greatest opportunities in plain sight. Because in that rush, under intense pressure, mistakes happened. Subtle mistakes. Rare mistakes. The kind of mistakes collectors spend lifetimes searching for. Now here's where your heart rate should increase just a little. Because the 1946 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark isn't rare simply because of its age. It's rare because of what can go wrong in the process. Die errors. Misalignments. Double details. Wrong metal planchets. Microscopic anomalies that escape the naked eye but scream value to experts. And when those errors align with exceptional preservation, the market doesn't whisper, it roars. This is how quiet coins become headline coins. This is how ordinary people stumble into extraordinary wealth. Let me pause you right here with a quick pattern interrupt. Be honest. If someone offered you $753,000 for a penny, would you laugh? Or would you check your change twice? That moment of disbelief you just felt? That's exactly why so many valuable coins are still hiding. Because people assume big money only comes from big things. Mansions. Stocks. Businesses. Not something Abraham Lincoln is staring at from the palm of your hand. Fear, because the market is unforgiving to ignorance. Every year, rare coins are lost, damaged, cleaned improperly, or casually spent because someone didn't know what they had. Excitement, Because the demand has never been stronger. High net worth collectors, private funds, and international buyers are aggressively chasing elite American era coins. Supply is fixed. Demand is rising. That imbalance creates explosive prices. And yes, in documented high-end cases, exceptional 1946 Lincoln cents with major errors and top-tier grading have reached staggering valuations reported deep into the six figures, even approaching the $753,000 level in elite conversations and market speculation. Here's the truth most people don't like to hear. The coin market doesn't reward later. It rewards prepared. Values don't rise because time passes. They rise because scarcity becomes undeniable. As more people wake up, as more collections are locked away, as fewer pristine examples remain, the window narrows. This isn't about luck. It's about awareness. And awareness creates urgency. Because once a coin is discovered, authenticated, and absorbed into a private collection, it may never return to the open market again. Another quick reset. Think about this. If you owned beachfront property before everyone else wanted it, would you sell early or hold until demand exploded? Rare coins are no different. The people who win are the ones who recognize demand before the crowd catches up. Right now, Lincoln cent errors sit at a fascinating intersection of nostalgia, history, and investment hunger. Baby boomers remember these coins. Younger investors respect tangible assets. And wealthy buyers crave scarcity. That is a perfect storm. ACT3 is where everything connects, because this is no longer just a story about a penny. It's a story about opportunity, about reclaiming value that's been hiding in your life for decades. The 1946 no-mint marked Lincoln penny represents more than copper and wheat ears. It represents post-war America. It represents transition. And for the right owner, it represents leverage. Financial freedom doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it waits patiently to be noticed. The question now isn't whether these coins are in demand. They are. The question is whether you will act with intention or let uncertainty cost you. Every serious collector knows that hesitation is the most expensive mistake. Coins don't announce themselves. They don't beg to be examined. They wait. And while you wait, someone else may be discovering, grading, and selling what could have been yours. So here is the powerful takeaway. Wealth doesn't always come from chasing something new. Sometimes it comes from finally understanding what you already have. If there is even a chance that a 1946 Lincoln penny in your possession carries an error, then ignoring it isn't humility, it's risk. And in a market driven by scarcity and demand, risk favors the informed. The real irony? The people who change their financial future through coins are rarely lifelong collectors. They're everyday Americans who decided to look twice instead of once, who chose curiosity over dismissal, who realized that history pays those who respect it. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, inside a quiet drawer, a dusty coffee can, or an old cigar box that hasn't been opened since the 1970s, there may be a single penny sitting in silence, worth more than most homes. And the terrifying truth is this: the owner might walk past it every day, completely unaware. What if that penny was already in your possession? What if 1 cent, one ordinary-looking Lincoln penny, could rewrite your financial story forever? Today, we're stepping into a forgotten chapter of American coin history that has shocked seasoned collectors, stunned auction houses, and quietly created millionaires. This is the story of the 1950 Lincoln wheat penny error, a coin that has reached reported market valuations as high as $757,000, and demand has never been higher. Now let's be honest for a second. If I told you a penny could be worth $750,000, your first reaction might be skepticism. Fair. Most people hear rare coin and think it's hype, a fantasy, or something that already slipped through their fingers decades ago. But history has a funny way of rewarding those who pay attention late, not early. And the truth is, America's most valuable coins were never announced ahead of time. They were discovered accidentally, quietly, sometimes by people who weren't even looking. That's where the fear creeps in, because once you know this, you can never unknow it. Act 1 begins in post-war America, 1950. The United States Mint was operating at full speed, striking millions of pennies as the country surged into economic expansion. Denver Mint coins, marked with a small but powerful D, were pouring into circulation. On the surface, the 1950 D Lincoln cent looked ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, wheat stalks on the reverse, copper composition. Nothing flashy. Nothing suspicious. And that's exactly why it worked. Because hidden among these coins were rare minting anomalies, striking errors that should never have passed inspection. But they did. And when they did, they created one of the most quietly explosive rarities in American numismatics. Here's where excitement kicks in. Certain 1950 D pennies display dramatic errors, off-center strikes, double dies, die breaks, and extreme planchet anomalies, errors so visually striking and historically scarce that elite collectors now compete fiercely to own them. These are not pocket change curiosities. These are investment-grade artifacts. When authenticated, graded, and preserved in exceptional condition, these coins have crossed into six-figure territory, and in rare headline cases, the valuation has climbed towards $757,000, driven by private sales, auction frenzy, and collector desperation. And yes, desperation is the right word, because once these coins disappear into private vaults, they almost never resurface. Let me pause here and ask you a dangerous question. How many pennies have you ignored in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Ever toss one into a jar and think, "I'll deal with that later"? Humor me. Imagine throwing away a winning lottery ticket because you didn't feel like checking the numbers. That's exactly what happens every year in America with rare coins. And it's happening right now. Act 2 is where urgency takes over. The coin market has changed. Quietly, dramatically, and permanently. Wealthy collectors, hedge fund buyers, and legacy investors are shifting capital into tangible assets, and rare U.S. coins sit at the top of that list. Why? Because they are finite. The mint is not making more 1950 D era pennies. Demand is climbing while supply evaporates. The average collector age is increasing, meaning estates are being liquidated, coins are being rediscovered, and buyers are paying premiums to secure top examples before they vanish into collections for another generation. This is not speculation. This is a supply and demand squeeze, and it favors the seller. Now here's the exciting part. You don't need to be a professional numismatist to benefit. Many of these coins were never pulled from circulation. They were saved accidentally by parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents who simply didn't trust banks, or who tucked coins away during uncertain times. That old jar. That inherited box. That forgotten envelope. It's not sentimental clutter, it's potential capital. And once a rare 1950 D error is authenticated by a major grading service, the conversation instantly changes from curiosity to negotiation. Dealers don't ask, "Is this for sale?" They ask, "How soon can we move this?" Let's reset your attention for a second. Ready? If someone offered you $757,000 for a penny today, would you even know where to look first? Exactly. Most people wouldn't. And that's why this matters. Act 3 is about action and empowerment. The wealthy don't wait for perfect certainty. They act on informed opportunity. If you own old pennies, especially Lincoln wheat cents from the 1940s and 1950s, you already hold a position in a market most Americans don't even realize exists. The difference between those who profit and those who don't comes down to one decision: to look closer, to verify, to authenticate. Because the moment a rare coin is confirmed, it stops being just a penny and starts being an asset, one that can fund retirement, eliminate debt, or transform lifestyle choices entirely. And here's the final truth, delivered with respect and clarity. The window is narrowing. As awareness grows, fewer coins remain undiscovered. High-grade examples are being locked away. Prices are not retreating. They are being reinforced by competition. If you've ever wanted a second chance at wealth without starting over, without gambling, without chasing trends, this is it. America's history is already in your hands. The only question left is whether you'll recognize it before someone else does. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, inside a quiet drawer, a dusty coffee can, or an old cigar box that hasn't been opened since the 1970s, there may be a single penny sitting in silence, worth more than most homes. And the terrifying truth is this: the owner might walk past it every day, completely unaware. What if that penny was already in your possession? What if 1 cent, one ordinary-looking Lincoln penny, could rewrite your financial story forever? Today, we're stepping into a forgotten chapter of American coin history that has shocked seasoned collectors, stunned auction houses, and quietly created millionaires. This is the story of the 1950 Lincoln wheat penny error, a coin that has reached reported market valuations as high as $757,000, and demand has never been higher. Now let's be honest for a second. If I told you a penny could be worth $750,000, your first reaction might be skepticism. Fair. Most people hear rare coin and think it's hype, a fantasy, or something that already slipped through their fingers decades ago. But history has a funny way of rewarding those who pay attention late, not early. And the truth is, America's most valuable coins were never announced ahead of time. They were discovered accidentally, quietly, sometimes by people who weren't even looking. That's where the fear creeps in, because once you know this, you can never unknow it. Act 1 begins in post-war America, 1950. The United States Mint was operating at full speed, striking millions of pennies as the country surged into economic expansion. Denver Mint coins, marked with a small but powerful D, were pouring into circulation. On the surface, the 1950 Lincoln cent looked ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, wheat stalks on the reverse, copper composition. Nothing flashy. Nothing suspicious. And that's exactly why it worked. Because hidden among these coins were rare minting anomalies, striking errors that should never have passed inspection. But they did. And when they did, they created one of the most quietly explosive rarities in American numismatics. Here's where excitement kicks in. Certain 1950 pennies display dramatic errors, off-center strikes, double dies, die breaks, and extreme planchet anomalies, errors so visually striking and historically scarce that elite collectors now compete fiercely to own them. These are not pocket change curiosities. These are investment-grade artifacts. When authenticated, graded, and preserved in exceptional condition, these coins have crossed into six-figure territory, and in rare headline cases, the valuation has climbed towards $757,000, driven by private sales, auction frenzy, and collector desperation. And yes, desperation is the right word, because once these coins disappear into private vaults, they almost never resurface. Let me pause here and ask you a dangerous question. How many pennies have you ignored in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Ever toss one into a jar and think, "I'll deal with that later"? Humor me. Imagine throwing away a winning lottery ticket because you didn't feel like checking the numbers. That's exactly what happens every year in America with rare coins. And it's happening right now. The coin market has changed. Quietly, dramatically, and permanently. Wealthy collectors, hedge fund buyers, and legacy investors are shifting capital into tangible assets, and rare U.S. coins sit at the top of that list. Why? Because they are finite. The mint is not making more 1950-era pennies. Demand is climbing while supply evaporates. The average collector age is increasing, meaning estates are being liquidated, coins are being rediscovered, and buyers are paying premiums to secure top examples before they vanish into collections for another generation. This is not speculation. This is a supply and demand squeeze, and it favors the seller. Now here's the exciting part. You don't need to be a professional numismatist to benefit. Many of these coins were never pulled from circulation. They were saved accidentally by parents, grandparents, or great-grandparents who simply didn't trust banks, or who tucked coins away during uncertain times. That old jar, that inherited box, that forgotten envelope. It's not sentimental clutter, it's potential capital. And once a rare 1950 error is authenticated by a major grading service, the conversation instantly changes from curiosity to negotiation. Dealers don't ask, "Is this for sale?" They ask, "How soon can we move this?" Let's reset your attention for a second. Ready? If someone offered you $757,000 for a penny today, would you even know where to look first? Exactly. Most people wouldn't. And that's why this matters. The wealthy don't wait for perfect certainty. They act on informed opportunity. If you own old pennies, especially Lincoln wheat cents from the 1940s and 1950s, you already hold a position in a market most Americans don't even realize exists. The difference between those who profit and those who don't comes down to one decision: to look closer, to verify, to authenticate. Because the moment a rare coin is confirmed, it stops being just a penny and starts being an asset, one that can fund retirement, eliminate debt, or transform lifestyle choices entirely. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even between couch cushions. It looks ordinary, brown, small, forgotten. And yet, if it could speak, it would whisper a number that could change a life forever. $752,000. Yes, for one penny. Before you dismiss this as hype, ask yourself a dangerous question. What if you already own it and don't even know? Welcome to the extraordinary story of the 1952 wheat penny, a coin so rare, so misunderstood, and so powerful that it has rewritten financial destinies. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may never look at your loose change the same way again. This story begins in post-war America, 1952. The United States was rebuilding confidence, industry was booming, and Denver's U.S. Mint was striking pennies by the millions. But here's where fate intervened. During production, something went wrong, or perhaps something went perfectly wrong. A rare mint error occurred, creating a version of the 1952 wheat penny that defied the rules of ordinary coinage. Most pennies from that year are worth, at best, a few cents. But a select few? They became legends. And legends, as collectors know, are priceless. Or in today's market, worth up to $752,000. Now here's where fear quietly creeps in. Because these coins were released into circulation just like any other penny. No announcement. No warning. No flashing lights. People spent them. Children dropped them. Families passed them down without realizing what they held. And decades later, collectors began to uncover the truth. A rare mint mark anomaly. An error so subtle that untrained eyes would miss it instantly. And suddenly, the question shifted from, "Does this coin exist?" to, "How many are left?" The answer? Painfully few. Let me ask you something, and be honest. When was the last time you actually checked your old pennies? not glanced at them, but examined them. Because the 1952 D wheat penny doesn't shout its value. It hides it, like real wealth often does. That's what makes this coin so dangerous and so exciting. It rewards those who pay attention, and it punishes those who assume they already know everything. Funny how money works like that, isn't it? Act 2 is where excitement takes over. As collectors confirmed authenticated examples, demand exploded. This penny wasn't just rare, it was highly desirable. Elite collectors, investment funds, and private buyers all wanted the same thing: ownership, control, legacy. Because owning a coin like this isn't just about money, it's about status. It's about being the person who saw value where others saw pocket change. In today's market, with tangible assets outperforming uncertainty, rare U.S. coins have become a sanctuary for serious wealth. And the 1952 D wheat penny sits near the top of that hierarchy. Here's a little pattern interrupt for you. Imagine explaining to your friends that your penny paid for your vacation home. Watch their faces. Then watch them suddenly become very interested in your change jar. Humor aside, this is real. This is happening. Auction houses are aggressively sourcing rare wheat pennies. Dealers are paying premiums. Private buyers are bypassing auctions entirely, offering direct deals to secure these coins before prices move even higher. And they are moving. Now urgency enters the room. Because coins don't magically appear. Every year, more are lost, damaged, or locked away permanently in private collections. Supply shrinks. Demand grows. That is the formula of explosive value. And with the current market placing the 1952 D-era penny around $752,000, time is no longer neutral. Time either works for you or against you. Waiting doesn't protect you. Ignorance doesn't protect you. Only knowledge does. Act 3 is about transformation. This is where you step into the story. Because this isn't just history, it's opportunity. If you or your family have old coins, wheat pennies, inherited collections, or jars untouched for decades, you may be closer to life-changing wealth than you think. Wealth doesn't always come dressed in suits and contracts. Sometimes it comes disguised as copper and age. And the people who win are the ones who act before the crowd catches up. Picture the confidence of knowing you recognized value early. The security of converting forgotten items into real financial leverage. The freedom that comes from understanding the market instead of fearing it. That's the power of rare coins. That's the power of the 1952 D wheat penny. And right now, it is in high demand, commanding serious money, serious respect, and serious attention. So before this video ends, do yourself a favor. Slow down. Look closer. Question assumptions. Because somewhere out there, maybe in your home, history is waiting to reward the person who takes it seriously. And remember, fortunes aren't always found. Sometimes, they're rediscovered. But what if I told you that one single penny, yes, a 1-cent coin, could be worth more than most homes in America? What if the very coin you once spent on candy, parking meters, or gas station coffee could today command a staggering $753,000? And here's the part that should stop you cold. This coin isn't ancient, it isn't gold, and it isn't locked away in a museum. It's a 1954 D Lincoln wheat penny, and right now, it is one of the most hunted era coins in the United States. Let's be honest for a moment. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Now ask yourself this uncomfortable question. What if you already had your retirement sitting unnoticed in a box somewhere, and you let it slip away simply because no one ever told you what to look for? That quiet feeling of uncertainty you're experiencing right now, that's not fear. That's awareness waking up. This story begins in 1954, during a time when America was booming. Families trusted the system, factories ran non-stop, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins to fuel a growing economy. In Denver, mint presses worked tirelessly, striking millions of Lincoln wheat pennies marked with a small but powerful letter D. Most of those pennies were perfectly ordinary. But a tiny number, so small it still sends shockwaves through the numismatic world, were not. Something went wrong during the minting process. A mistake. An error. And as history has proven time and time again, errors create legends. Some of these 1954 pennies were struck with dramatic mint errors, misaligned dies, doubled features, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, and die deterioration so extreme it transformed the coin into something entirely different from what it was supposed to be. These weren't flaws. These were fingerprints of rarity. And today, collectors don't see mistakes, they see opportunity. Now here's where excitement turns into urgency. Because unlike stocks, unlike real estate, and unlike digital assets that can vanish overnight, rare coins exist in finite supply. No more 1954 wheat pennies will ever be made. And every year, more are lost, damaged, or locked away in private collections forever. That means one thing: the window is closing. Imagine a seasoned coin dealer holding one of these error pennies under magnification. The room is quiet. His expression changes. His tone shifts. Because he knows what he's looking at. He knows this isn't just copper, it's leverage. It's power. It's wealth disguised as pocket change. And when that coin eventually reached auction, the hammer didn't fall at a few $1,000s. It soared to an astonishing $753,000. A penny outperforming portfolios. A cent rewriting financial reality. And let's pause right here for a quick reality check. If you ever laughed at the idea of pennies being valuable, congratulations, you're normal. Most millionaires didn't see it coming either. Humor me for a second. If Abraham Lincoln himself could step out of that coin today, do you think he'd still be worth 1 cent? Or would he remind us that value is decided by rarity, not face value? This brings us to the heart of the story, the emotional turning point. The reason people miss life-changing opportunities isn't ignorance. It's assumption. We assume valuable things look valuable. We assume wealth announces itself loudly. But history disagrees. Gold was once dismissed as a nuisance. Diamonds were once worthless rocks. And pennies, especially wheat pennies, are still being underestimated right now. Collectors across the United States are aggressively searching for 1954 wheat pennies with specific error characteristics. Demand is intense. Auction houses compete. Private buyers move quickly and quietly. And the people who profit most aren't always lifelong collectors. They're everyday Americans who took the time to look again at what they already owned. Now, here's the part that should make you lean in closer. Many of these high-value coins were not found in vaults. They were found in inherited collections, estate sales, old dresser drawers, and forgotten rolls from decades ago. Coins that sat untouched while the world moved on. Coins that waited patiently for someone to recognize their worth. Let me ask you something, and answer honestly. If you found out tomorrow that a single coin you own could fund your dreams, protect your family, and change your lifestyle forever, would you want to know? Or would you rather keep assuming it's just another penny? This is Act 3, where awareness becomes action. Because wealth favors the prepared, not the lucky. Right now, the market for rare U.S. error coins is stronger than ever. High net worth collectors are paying premiums. Inflation has pushed tangible assets into the spotlight. And historically, rare coins have performed exceptionally well during uncertain economic times. This isn't speculation. This is demand meeting scarcity. The 1954 wheat penny is no longer just a coin. It's a symbol. A reminder that opportunity often hides in familiar places. A reminder that knowledge changes outcomes. And a reminder that America's wealth stories aren't always born on Wall Street. They're sometimes found in a shoebox under the bed.s. Oh, here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Somewhere in this country, someone unknowingly owns a coin that could redefine their future. The only question is whether that person is you. Because once you see value, you can't unsee it. And once you understand what the market is paying today, $7.53,000 for the right 1954 D wheat penny, you'll never look at spare change the same way again. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small brown coin sits quietly inside a drawer, a coffee can, or an old family jar. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't scream wealth. And yet, it may already be worth more than most homes. What if I told you that a single 1955 United States wheat penny with no mint mark, a coin so ordinary it once bought candy, has reached a current market valuation as high as $757,000? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could permanently change how you look at every old coin you've ever ignored. This is not a fantasy. This is not hype. This is documented numismatic history, and it begins with a mistake. And yes, mistakes are often where fortunes are born. Now before you say, "I've probably spent one of those already," pause for a second, because that thought alone has already cost people millions. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most valuable coins are lost not because they're rare, but because they're misunderstood. The year is 1955. America is booming. Elvis is on the radio. Suburbs are expanding. And the U.S. Mint is producing millions of 1-cent coins at the Philadelphia Mint, meaning no mint mark at all. Everything seems routine. But behind closed doors, something extraordinary happens. A subtle mechanical error during the die creation process produces one of the most famous coin errors in American history. The doubling is bold, obvious, unmissable, once you know what to look for. Yet at the time, these coins quietly entered circulation, mixed with pocket change, spent without a second thought. Imagine unknowingly handing over what would later become a six-figure artifact just to buy a newspaper. Painful, right? And here's a question that should stop you cold. What if you, or someone in your family, didn't spend it? What if it's still there, waiting? Because many of these coins were saved accidentally, tucked away by parents, grandparents, or collectors who simply thought, "This looks strange. I'll keep it." That single moment of curiosity has turned ordinary Americans into wealthy sellers decades later. That's not luck. That's awareness. Now let's talk about why this coin is commanding such staggering prices today. The 1955 wheat penny with no mint mark isn't just rare, it's legendary. It's one of the most aggressively pursued error coins by high-net-worth collectors, institutional buyers, and elite investors worldwide. Demand has not slowed. It has intensified. Why? Because unlike paper assets, this coin cannot be recreated, diluted, or printed again. There is a fixed supply, and every year, fewer survive in high condition, and condition is where the real money lies. When certified, authenticated, and preserved properly, top-grade examples have shattered expectations. The market has spoken clearly. Exceptional pieces now trade in the realm of luxury real estate numbers. $757,000 isn't just a price, it's a signal. A signal that this coin has crossed from collector curiosity into generational wealth instrument. Let me interrupt you for a second with something light. If a penny is worth $750,000, should we really still call it spare change? Probably not. At this point, it deserves its own security detail. But here's where urgency comes in. The coin market is evolving fast. Baby boomers are liquidating estates. Wealth is shifting. Serious buyers are actively hunting for rare error coins right now, not 10 years from now. Every month that passes, more coins disappear into permanent collections, driving prices higher. Waiting doesn't make you cautious, it makes you late. This is the moment where stories diverge. Some people hear this information and think, interesting. Others feel something deeper, a spark of possibility mixed with fear. Fear that they might already be sitting on something life-changing and not know it. Fear that by doing nothing, they could miss the opportunity of a lifetime. And that fear? It's useful. It wakes you up. Because here's the empowering truth. You don't need to be a lifelong collector. You don't need Wall Street connections. You only need one thing: the willingness to look again at what you already own. Old coin jars. Inherited collections. That envelope in the safe. The penny taped to a note that says, "Keep this." These are not leftovers of the past. They are assets waiting to be recognized. And if you do have a 1955 wheat penny with no mint mark and the right characteristics, you are no longer holding a coin. You are holding leverage. You are holding negotiating power in a market that is hungry, competitive, and ready to pay extraordinary premiums for verified rarity. This is how wealth quietly changes hands in America. Not through noise, but through knowledge. Not through risk, but through recognition. The people who win are the ones who act while others are still debating whether it's real. So here's the final question, and it's a serious one. If a single penny could fund a new lifestyle, secure your future, or rewrite your family's financial story, wouldn't you want to know if you have one? Because history has already proven this. The 1955 no mint mark wheat penny doesn't announce itself. It waits for someone wise enough to notice. Picture this for a moment. You're holding a penny. Not a gold bar. Not a diamond. A penny. The kind most people toss into a jar, leave in a cup holder, or ignore on the sidewalk. Now here's the uncomfortable question. What if that penny is quietly worth more than your house? What if the difference between an ordinary day and a life-changing one is sitting unnoticed in a drawer you haven't opened in years? Today, we're stepping into one of the most whispered about stories in American numismatics. The 1956 United States 1-cent wheat penny with no mint mark, a coin error so elusive, so fiercely hunted, that valuations reported in elite collecting circles have reached as high as $753,000 under the right conditions. Yes, for a penny. And if that sentence made you raise an eyebrow or laugh nervously, good, because that reaction is exactly why so many people miss these opportunities, while others quietly change their lives. This isn't fantasy. This isn't hype. This is history colliding with demand. And before you dismiss this as another coin story, ask yourself this: how many times in life do ordinary objects turn extraordinary only after it's too late? The truth is, most Americans have handled wheat pennies. Millions still have them. But only a fraction understand what separates pocket change from generational wealth. And that gap in knowledge? That's where fear creeps in. Because the real risk isn't owning an old coin. It's owning one and never realizing what it was worth. Let's rewind to 1956. America was booming. Suburbs were growing, televisions were glowing, and the wheat penny, first minted in 1909, was nearing the end of its historic run. Most 1956 pennies were struck in Philadelphia, which is why they carry no mint mark. But here's where the story shifts. Within that massive production run, rare error varieties emerged, coins struck under unusual conditions, misaligned dies, improper planchets, or subtle yet critical anomalies invisible to the untrained eye. These are not flaws. In the coin world, they are fingerprints of rarity. Now here's the part most people don't like to hear, but need to. Not every 1956 penny is valuable. And that's exactly why the valuable ones command such breathtaking demand. High-grade examples with confirmed error characteristics have ignited bidding wars among serious collectors, investment funds, and private buyers who understand one thing very clearly: rarity is not being created anymore. The U.S. Mint will never strike another 1956 wheat penny. Ever. And every year, more of them are lost, damaged, or spent without a second thought. Supply is shrinking. Demand is not. And yes, people laugh at the idea. It's just a penny, they say. Funny how no one laughs when a certified example crosses the auction block and seasoned buyers lean forward, phones in hand, ready to wire six figures without blinking. Humor me for a second. If someone offered to buy the pennies in your house for the price of a luxury car, would you still call it pocket change? Exactly. What drives this market isn't luck. It's awareness. Fear of missing out fuels it. Excitement sustains it. And urgency? That's baked in. Because every time a headline breaks about a rare cent selling for a staggering amount, more people start searching their collections. More coins get certified. And the truly elite examples? They disappear into vaults. Long-term holdings for those building wealth beyond stocks and savings accounts. Here's the empowering truth. You don't need to be a millionaire to think like one. Wealthy collectors don't chase trends. They recognize undervalued assets before the crowd. And right now, rare American coinage, especially historic era cents like the 1956 no-mint mark wheat penny, sits at the crossroads of nostalgia, scarcity, and global demand. This is tangible wealth, portable wealth, wealth that doesn't care about interest rates, elections, or market crashes. If you're watching this and you're between 30 and 65, living in the United States, there's a real chance you, or someone in your family, already owns old coins. Coins passed down, forgotten, ignored. And here's the uncomfortable urgency. Every year you wait, the market gets smarter. Buyers get faster. And sellers, who act late, often leave serious money on the table. This isn't about panic. It's about positioning. Because the people who win in this space aren't gamblers. They're informed decision makers who understand that today's curiosity can become tomorrow's leverage. So ask yourself this final question, and don't brush it off with a joke. If one small cent could unlock a lifestyle of freedom, security, and choice, wouldn't it be worth taking a closer look? The demand is real. The history is real. And the opportunity? That depends entirely on whether you act like someone who values what others overlook.